Right, well, today's repair is a Realistic 1001 handheld from 1981. There's two versions of this, and until I open it up, I can't tell you which. I'll use the Realistic 2005 manual, which is the 1983 set they produced, which is the same beast but has an LCD display instead of the LED display on this one. This set's more reliable because the LCD subboard can end up with dry joints. They can both end up with dry joints on the main board, which are usually between the two sides of the board, and can usually be addressed reasonably easily without having to take the screen plates off the back. Sometimes you do have to take the screen plates off the back. When we put the adapter into this, we won't get the full wattage it's really doing, as the adapter tree attenuates it to some degree. Not helped by the fact it's an RCA phono connector. I'll just take that cap off. I sent a scrap one as well to recover some of these caps from. Now this is a problem because they go hard and brittle, so I'm going to get that off and it's probably going to break. So what are we going to do? Fought it off with a screwdriver, a great big screwdriver. When I went on a Maxon training course in the late 1990s at the headquarters at Hemel Hempstead, I said, what screwdriver do we open these sets with? And they said the biggest one Woolworths sell. So with a bit of that, we'll use that bag as protection and hopefully force that off. So we can't do anything without gaining access to this. The only other thing is cut it off with a knife. I'd like to get it off whole, and I have done. Well, more or less, apart from a chunk out. So I think they're a bit more subtle on these scrap set, and so we're going to try and put those on where we can. Can do that with those, but we can't do that with those at the top because the way this is assembled, the escutcheon is glued on with the tabs underneath it. Well, what we don't want to do is to try and get the escutcheon off and mar the finish of it just to recover those. So they're going to have to end up as single things, but I'll make sure he gets those back off his scrap set. So shall we power it up? These are a 12 volt radio, they're not 13.8. Don't apply 13.8, you will kill them. And it's, what does it say? Yeah, it's 12.5 is maximum, so that's what we'll do. Just going to be absolutely sure that I'm telling you the truth. There are also a 3.5 watt radio, they're not a 4 watt radio. So when you get the 1005, which says 4 watts on it, that's rounded up to 4 watts. So the limit specification is 3 watts. Now we probably won't achieve that because of the attenuation from that output socket. But the radio will work better than you would think, because it will be doing more power than what we think. So what I now need is my RCA adapter. And where's that? Oh, it's not in the jar, it's there. Right, so this is pretty good condition for its age. What's the corrosion like? Well, as a courtesy, I'll just run the fiberglass brush onto the battery contacts. We do not test any walkie-talkies on batteries. So as a trade supplier, we're going to sort the radio out through the extension power socket. So if there's a battery holder problem, well, that's not something we're looking into. We can offer a retail service at 4 times the price. Right, let's open it up. You've got 5 screws, you've got 2 underneath. And you've got this one in the back. These are crystal filtered as standard set. And the sensible thing to do is to unsolder the speaker. I've only ever had one speaker failure. The other thing we're going to check is that the telescopic aerial is in one piece. Well, there's no point in continuing. I'm mindful of where the camera is above this bench. I don't want to poke its eyes out. That's absolutely perfect. A sensible thing might be to have a WD-40 rag on that to just put some lubrication on it. So it's absolutely perfect. Mind you, these can be used without the aerial at all, can't they? Because it can be used in external aerial seats. So radio you could use as like an emergency set with a mag mount on your car or something. So there you go. Just going to run the fiberglass brush on there. And we're going to use the Motorola stroke RCA adapter. So the Motorola type connector is what you used to find on the back of car radios in a day gone by. That fits those, and it also fits the RCA phono. Plug it into the test gear, and hopefully we have got a power cable what's it got caught round? Oh, it's found its way to a cigarette lighter plug, has it? Right. Right, we'll put the power supply on. We're going to start it at 9 volts, 300 milliamps, just in case there's some malfunction. Well, we definitely have power. But not to the set unless I've used the wrong one. It's a good start, isn't it? We're going to have done half the video and half the length I want to do and haven't started. Definitely got 9 volts there. His notes don't say anything about it other than it's come off eBay. plug the instrument speaker in, so if it powers up we can actually hear it powering up. So I'm going to turn the squelch down and the volume to some volume. We'll try that again. No, it's not drawing any current. I'll have a quick look at the circuit diagram. So what would cause no negative? So we have the power jack here, and positive goes through the switching arrangement, but basically ends up at L27, and negative go to the same connection point as the batteries do. So by using the positive and negative battery, we should have eliminated a lot of that. So let's see where the on and off switch is in the circuit. The on and off switch is there. As far as I can see, the on and off switch is looks like it's in the negative, but I'm sure it isn't. No, it's not. I'll pause the video and see what I can learn. Right, so we've got a short circuit, and what's happened is one of the tracks has fused. Now, so you only need to put an external power source in, which is the wrong way round and no fuse, for something to happen. And then normally it's going to be the audio IC that's going to be killed, which has been unobtainable for a very long time. So what we need to do is put a piece of 5 amp fuse wire across that track. Rather than bridge it with lots of wire, it means that if something goes wrong again, then the thin 5 amp fuse wire will fail instead of the radio failing. But we haven't got to the bottom why. I'm going to take the audio IC out. Is it that one down there? I think it is. I'll take that out as the next course of action before reapplying power. Turn the power supply off. That's why I'm doing this 300 milliamp current limited and at 9 volts. You know, if I put 10 amps across it at 13.8, we'd have smoke. So hopefully we can get our soldering iron in to that point there. I thought that was the hardest bit. And what we'll do is to run it to the point just there. There we go. So now that will bring power back onto it, but under short circuit conditions. So the sensible thing to do, if we look at the circuit diagram, what doesn't go through a voltage regulator? Well, the first thing you've got is a TA78007 voltage regulator, which is basically a 7-volt regulator. You could put an 8 in and it wouldn't kill it, but the 7s are available. It's a Toshiba version. You've got the audio IC AN374P, which has been unobtainable for more than 20 years. So the first thing that any power goes to that's reverse polarity will be that. So my sensible thing is to unsolder that so that it either takes away the short circuit or proves me to be wrong. So there's the AN374 internal workings. So it is IC3. I'm sure that's IC3. Yeah, it says so on the board. So I need to unsolder that, which I'll just do. Well, I'm getting somewhere with this. So I've changed the protection diode, which has gone open circuit. So the next time it was reverse polarity, it's taken out this audio IC, which you've not been able to get for a very long time, AN374P, which is a Mitsubishi device, and it's taken out the TA7007 regulator IC. I've replaced that, and so now if we power it up, no audio IC in. I've got a scrap set. Well, he's sent in a scrap set, but I don't have to delve into that at this stage because I've got one. So that's now powering up. Just press the button. Oh, it's on channel 13, unlucky for some. Turn the knob, come on. So there we are. So we've got rid of it. We're down to 35 milliamps. So that's the kind of power we would expect. So I'll recover a audio IC off a scrap chassis. We've only got the one. Right, moment of truth. So we took the what am I telling you? I put the audio IC in. Have we got any audio? Let's turn the squelch down. Hey, we've got audio. Right. So when I took the shield plate off the bottom, which needs to go back, to get to all this, I discovered a corker of a dry joint. So I've dealt with it. I've also gone round looking for other dry joints, both top and bottom, and I've dealt with quite a few potential ones, but it must have been not working because of that dry joint. It was that bad. So let's get a signal on our signal generator. There's a thunderstorm outside. It'd be nice to get this fixed and scratchy cornered in the thunderstorm. But it's certainly receiving because as I put the aerial to the test gear in, it made a difference. I'll put this on channel 20 and yeah, I can hear it receiving. See if it goes into transmit. It does. I think it's on low power. It isn't, but it's not doing it. Oh, it's I'm on the other range. So straight away it's doing about 700 milliwatts on 9 volts. So we'll go to 12 volts. And I've just turned that exactly to 12.5, which is the radio's maximum. So now we've got, I can put picture in picture on, you can see all this. So you can see we're doing 2.6 watts, which is absolutely what you'd be expecting. So receive, again, we've got all these adapters on and it doesn't help. So these are always better than what the results I'm going to tell you. So I'm satisfied that this is now a working set between the audio IC, the regulator IC, the protection diode, which are going to open circuit, and with those ICs failing, it had taken a piece of print out, which I've put that piece of fuse wire in. So what I'm going to do is we'll turn it off and we'll put the shield plate back on. I'll come back to you when I've got the bottom on. We'll go through a realignment. Okay, so that's it back together. So let's fill in a sheet if we've got one. We have. I've still not got the clipboard back. To be honest, that's probably all that's going to be wrong with it. All, he says. 474246. So is it early or it's the late one? It's the late one. It's got the power set control there. The early ones don't have that. So this is better one to have. So transmit power, I'll tell you what helps if we switch it back on, is 2.5 watts. That's absolutely fine. I say we've got all these adapters. Channel 40, 2.3 watts. Channel 1, 2.6 watts, sounds out of balance. Low power, back to channel 20. (160 milliwatts). It's not adjustable on these. Transmit current, 670 milliamps. Power saving things like the display extinguishing, and they don't normally use an MC3357, and this one uses an MC3357. It uses a low power alternative, but this doesn't. So that was a waste of my time telling you. Deviation, we'll come back to that on the other test set, but just for the record, see what it's doing. Wallow. It's doing 2.4, and I think that's going to be right. I'm not going to do that. Frequency. Let's go over to the other camera. Wherever I put the remote, there I put it there. (79112). That will rise as the set's been on. I'm absolutely satisfied. We don't need to touch that. So let's look at receive. It's 2.3. It's 2. And it's 6.5. So If we make sure, oh, I'm not showing you the standard meter. If I just put the standard meter up, we go back to 10 dB. Sorry, 12 dB. If I hold the range boost side panels, it improves. So with the range boost side panels, we're now at 1.6 microvolts. So you can see how that is. Because the range boost side panels go to the chassis and gets it earth that way. So don't worry about the figures not looking as good as what the specification says. It's always going to be the same because of the adapter tree. If you could actually take the sockets off, take the antenna out, and go straight into the board, you'd get the sensitivity the set is capable of genuinely, but we can't do that. So we'll go through a tune-up. I'll just have to look at the manual. They like doing it topsy-turvy. Transmit is, we won't need to do all this because it's already working. So it's L5 and T6. They're not all where you think they are. So L5 is there, that one. So you want the other tool for that. I'm not sure why they have you start there. We need the other tool for that. No, we don't have a tool. That's handy, isn't it? We do have a big blue one from RS. I'll be able to get the vacuum cleaner on this, won't I? If it wasn't the fact that it's raining, I'd not be doing this. I'd be working on the organ. Good. I'll pause the video and we'll get another tool. Right, we're going to have to do something which we shouldn't do. It's most unprofessional, and that's use an Allen key. You can't get a proper reading. I'm going to use an external mic, which we've got wired for Realistic. It's more convenient for me. So, as the manual says, we need to peak this. So we're going to get a false reading, and I need to take that into consideration. And it goes without saying exactly where it was is the correct point. So that's that one. So L5, T6 is next. T6, T7 and 8. Absolutely spot on so far, this. Yep. And then L8 and 9, which are the two there. Bit gain there. Make sure I'm on the right channel, yeah. Now, before we do any further, I'm just going to see where we are on the other channels. 2.7 on channel 40. 2.6 on channel 1. 2.6.5. Right, now we'll turn that preset and see whether we get any more. Checking it back on 20. That's the right one. I'm going to use a metal screwdriver, which I can because the plastic adjustment. Yeah, that brings it up. There we go. So 3.2 watts. On channel 20. 3.1 watts on channel 40, and on channel 1 3.4 watts. Sorry, 3.3, I'm reading it wrongly. Low power on channel 20. I'll tell you what, before we do that, we'll see what the current consumption is now. It's now 860 milliamps, so you can get through your batteries quicker. And on low power, is 170 milliwatts. And out of interest, it draws 270 milliamps to do that. So that's where we are with that. I'll just check the deviation with the test set behind me. You know what, I've not been showing you any of these powers, have I? Because I've got the wrong meter on. So let's go back to make sure we're on channel 20. So we're on the 30 watt scale. So there we are, 3.3 just there. If we go to the 3 watt scale, as you can see, it's well beyond full scale deflection. Right, as I say, I'll just look at the test set behind me and verify that 2.4 kilohertz deviation. They're a unique clipping sound, these radios, which isn't necessarily pleasant, but they work well. So we'll use the external mic. Wallet. We're in FM. No wonder I'm not. Sorry, we're in AM instead of FM. Wallet. It's a little bit low. It's kind of 2.2-ish. I'll just see where we are with that. Is it VR1 or is it VR2? We'll just have to check. VR1 is deviation, and VR1 is the one up there. I have to get some longer arms so I can reach the bench behind. That's it. that back on the other test set. So that's 2.2 to 2.5 kilohertz, and we want you to set the meter with VR. Oh, VR2 is what we've covered. We've already covered that. Yeah, 3.5 watts. There's a never ever touch one, which is done with the spectrum analyzer, which is L12. So this lower one, which next to the condenser microphone, looks like it's part of the receiver, but in actual fact it's the never touch it one, so just be aware of that. Right, we'll move on to the receiver. So we'll start with the detector. I can't even speak, too many church services today playing the organ. Let's put S9 on, so we've got a decent trace and some reasonable volume as well. So the detector, I think they do it absolutely last and we do it first. Oh, they do transmit first, so we'll let them off. But oh, they do it first, just as we would. T4. I'll take my words back. The manual's in the right order. T4 is this one. So we've gained a little bit there, which is nice. So now we'll go to the synod meter and put it on a nice low signal. Not that low. See what we can get. So basically we're doing T1, 2, 3 and 4. So next to the one we mustn't touch, T1. No change. T2. Tiniest improvement. T3. Under the wiring harness, there's your crystal filter is also under there. And T4, which, oh, T5, sorry, T5 is up there. There we go. So the new synod reading probably is no different. Again, I'll hold the range boost side panels to try and get a true result. For 12 dB, 2.6. 2.2, 10 dB, 6.1. Is that what I'm talking about? It's 2. I told you that one wrong as well. 12 dB, 2.2. And for 20, 1.8. No, 6.1. So tiniest improvement. In actual fact, this is a lot better than it looks on paper. So you can't adjust the squelch, but just for the record, it is what? It's 10 microvolts maximum. And minimum, just set the thing. Threshold. 2 microvolts, but they're saying in actual fact it is better than that. So take the figures with a pinch of salt. There's a lot of loss, and this is a relative RF meter on the top, so when we key up, I can't actually see that doing anything. Now, the meter's duff on this, so we're going to have to come back to it another day. I can't spend any more time. That does cost us an extra day, but I can't now go beyond. We're now at like 8:30 in the evening. I think we've got a scrap American set. There's a lot of these with duff meters now, so there we go. So I've done the set, but it's just silliness like that. And hopefully that American set's got some of those covers on it. Okay, so the next day, you've got to take the top off. When you're taking the back off, you've got to take the board out here. And as it happens, see, this customer sent a scrap set in, but I don't want to scrap his scrap set before I've evaluated it as to whether it's rebuildable. So I am spending my money on my parts as he's paid by supplying a scrap set. So we've got this scrap Realistic 209, which is an American FCC set, which of course is illegal in this country, and the top of that has got 2 flaps. Now, to release those, you'd have to take the escutcheon off. I'm going to send this to the customer. If he wants to do that with a craft knife, that's up to him, because I'm not going to risk it, because I'll end up marring the finish of his set. But that's got good caps. It hasn't got any caps for the controls down here. So what we've had to do here, take the display board out. The meter's secured from underneath, which is absolute swine to get a screwdriver into. But on this set, the same meter is secured loosely. It isn't secured at all, it's just held in with the front. And it's the same meter, so there's the one I've recovered out of the AM set. Get rid of that rather knackered screw. I've never changed one of these before because I've never had a spare meter before. So get it the right way round, it will help. So all we need to do is the red wire goes to the blue zone and the white wire goes to the red zone. I'll quiz you all on that later. This looks like it works, it's got good freedom of movement. White wire, red wire. Let's put a bit of solder on that to tin it. Just cut that a bit neater. So far, every one of these that's come in needing a new meters, it's still needing a new meter when it's gone out because of the fact there weren't any meters around. But this TRC209 came along in a box of stuff. Unfortunately, they had a super long centre loaded aerial and they weren't permitted on 2781, so we ended up with a loading coil inside the set. You can't swap it even if you wanted to. Mind you, I mean, I'm not complaining, we get 6 miles out of these sets. I've shown enough field tests before now. So I think the best thing to do is to power it up in bits like this and just see if we're going to have any luck. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. It's gone straight over to the blue zone. Right, I'll put it back together. So I had to take the extension speakers. So what am I doing? I've got a live on the air thing and I don't have that facility. That's got rid of it. So I've had to take the telescopic aerial out. With it being the later version, feeds in back through the top. And then the star washer is still captive there. We have the bolt, a spacer, and then it goes into the thread. If you don't put the spacer in, if you get the wrong aerial in these, just to make it more fun, it doesn't poke out the right amount at the top, or it goes all the way in the set. Because there was a production change, as I mentioned. Make sure that's tight, but not so tight as to strip the thread. So hopefully, as you can see, we've got the screen plate back on. Hopefully this will all go back together and we've got a working set. So you've got to get that past there and have enough leeway to pop that back on its guide rails. Then push that all the way home like that. These bits are off this piece of foam that's disintegrated. So we just need to put the side screws back in. Before we go any further with screwing this in, I need to get a better one of these things. I've got this, was it this set? That wasn't that one. I'll pause the video and find a better one. So we've finally got there one of the AM scrap sets here. Had a full set and nice and subtle and soft, which is strange because it's been stored in one of our sheds. But it just goes to show. So I'll send him back with the ones that came out of here, but I'll also send him back with this top panel in case he feels that he can remove this exclusion and on his and refit them. I'm not doing that. So there we go. It's time to just put the finishing touches to it, like soldering the speaker back on. So it's been reverse polarityed, clearly with no fuse, and when the protection diode is on open circuit, it's blown the audio IC and a 7.5 volt voltage regulator. So the fact that the audio IC has been ruined and that can't be got theoretically made this set a write-off. As it happens, we've got a scrap chassis, which I bought like that, 2005 scrap chassis. It's sad when a high-end set like that has been turned into a scrap chassis, because I bet it was something silly that was wrong with it. Like the dry joint scenario. This clearly had a dry joint problem, I've dealt with it. So, let's put that back on. It's a nice condition set. I would like to say that it hasn't worked for decades. Let's put those screws in the bottom. So he's had a lot of parts, but we're not charging him a penny for parts because he sent a scrap set in which probably had all those parts working. We'll evaluate that another time. But I'd rather not scrap his scrap set, if you understand that. Through the nice lossy adapter. You know, if that was to BNC, it'd be far less lossy. So, without damaging these little rubber things, considering these are 40 years old, you've got to expect them to be. The word is knackered. But, I say we managed to find one. Plug that into the power one. Switch on. The little black button puts the channel button on for 2 seconds. We'll put the external mic in. The internal mics do sound better, but when we do our on-the-air test, it'd be very inconvenient to keep picking the setup and putting it to your mouth. 1-9 Roger. As you saw, that went across. And if I go onto low power, it won't go as far across like that. So we'll go through the channels. It's too early for them, it's 9 in the morning. $1 Roger. So as a final, I'll pop it on low power. Oh, still on low power. We'll get our walkie-talkie, make sure I can hear it on the internal mic, because I have tested it before, but that was before we took it all apart again. So, on the external mic, testing 1, 2. We're on the wrong band. Testing 1, 2, 1, 2. Unplug that mic. That switches it over to internal. Testing 1, 2. It does sound crisper on that. So just make sure we can 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing 1, 2. There we go. So resurrected from the very dead, and that's why we do have some American scrap sets here, which can help along with repairs of the unrepairable. I will just say the audio IC used in the Realistic 209 is a TBA810, so you can't harvest one of those from an American set. It has to be this. But there you are. We've done it. Thanks for watching.